Now back to this Monday night and the final programme in the series offering advice on jobs and training in Skillshop.
Unused training places, can we afford to leave them empty?
The community radio way to learn English.
Learning to listen and learning to speak out.
And the Skillshop advice line is open, 0800 100 900. Hello and welcome to the last programme in the present Skillshop series. As you can see, we have three very different examples of training in action.
Although in our first story, it's the lack of training activity which is causing some concern. With headlines like this one, you'd expect every available training centre to be working at full capacity. In Leeds, it seems they're short of customers.
During a recession, the issue of skill shortages tends to get forgotten. But my main concern for the industry itself, and having been in the industry all my life, is that in 3 or 4 years' time, or at whatever point there is an upturn in the economy, the industry itself will not be able to take advantage because it will not have the skills available to it.
When recessionary times occur, people become short of business, low profit margins. They are forced to consider cutting cost. Unfortunately, some people don't have the foresight to keep the cost cutting away from the budget of apprentice training.
Well, I wrote to 4 companies initially, and I got one reply back from those 4. They all wanted different requirements from what I had.
It's mostly because a lot of companies aren't taking lads on this year, you know.
Yeah.
A lot aren't taking apprentices on.
Apprentices learn on-site in factories, but their employers often pay for them to spend their first year in centres like the Leeds engineering workshops.
We cover the whole range of engineering skills for the whole range of people needing those skills. So we go right through all the basic craft skills such as turning, milling, fitting, grinding.
Situate the cross. Okay.
Yeah.
How do we set the length of the table?
Well, then 2 pounds.
So 2 screws, undo the 2 screws, and we can set the actual length of the workpiece. So the smaller the workpiece, the less distance it travels. Filings down there now, can you see them?
Yeah.
They're actually what's being removed.
We would expect in normal times for our core business of training of young people to recruit 90 people. This year we've something just over 60, and you can see the effect on the shop floor of unused equipment. We would expect that largely to be 100% utilised.
Right, put that one on, put a small one on at the same time.
The fall-off in training placements has even begun to affect the providers of youth training schemes.
City Training Services was established in 1983. We, I think, are probably the biggest private provider in Bradford. We have 400 trainees on our books at the moment, both young people and unemployed adults. I'm going to a company we've been dealing with for some long time, a placement provider, Lampways, and I'm going to inquire what the prospects are for 1992. We've been affected quite badly. We did a trawl of our placement companies in the early spring, and then by the time in early summer, 3 months later, we were ready to use companies that had actually said they were interested in having a trainee. We found that 25% of them had either gone out of business entirely or were in such an embarrassing position that they couldn't envisage taking on a trainee this year.
The Leeds Training Centre has found that even their technical facilities are not enough to persuade local industry to invest in training.
A Harrison machine is a numerically controlled lathe, so it replaces the traditional turning tool with a tool which is controlled by computer and by numerical input. So competitors all over the world are using this sort of equipment, and therefore training on this sort of equipment is essential. The prime purpose of these machines when they were installed, of course, was to give specialist training on this sort of equipment to both young and adult employed status people. That sort of custom has dried up this year and is a direct reflection of the recession. Under our current contracts, we look like using this equipment for about 6 weeks out of the 46, 48 weeks that we have available. So you can obviously see from those figures that they're grossly underutilised.
I think the government's policy, which has actively asked industry to fund its own training, has had a very negative effect. Our funding has been cut quite severely, and that's meant this year that we've had to increase our charges from £20 a week for a trainee to £35. And in fact, it has been the final straw for some of them, and the increase is enough for them to say no to training.
I would say that we are confident about the future, and in particular about our own plans. We therefore would be looking towards taking trainees, one in the warehouse, one in the sales office, and one in the marketing.
There are companies for whom the traditional commitment to apprenticeships is sacred.
Landis-Lund make machine tools and grinding machines in particular. We make cylindrical grinding machines that finish grind crankshafts, camshafts, mainly for the automotive industry. We have been quite seriously affected by a worldwide recession that's occurring at this time. Our output and production is some 30 or 40% down. The machine tool industry is like the engine of a car. Without the engine, the car goes nowhere. Without the machine tool industry, that's the heart and soul of the manufacturing industry of this country, nothing can happen. To cut back on the apprentice intake, in my opinion, is folly. I would rather sell the managing director's car than drop one apprentice from my programme. The seed corn of our industry is the apprentices. They are the people that are our future, and it's just like saying, why not cut back the schooling of the regular children in the district just because somebody has run a little short of money. Our workforce at Landis-Lund consists of approximately 320 people. We believe that a good balance for this is an intake of apprentices of about 8 each year. We do this through good times and through bad times.
We've got 50,000 to go off. Okay, do you agree?
Yep.
Fine.
Engineering in the long run, I feel, depending on how hard you work and your commitment, I think you can go as far as you like with engineering, really. You can stay on the shop floor, or you can get into administration, you know, it's really on how you want to work. And you can move on to different things after that as well, I feel, because it opens doors to you.
We could have gone out at any point during this year and filled this training centre, or filled the spare capacity with unemployed youngsters. That training, however, is very expensive, and without the sponsorship of industry, central government and local authority and or training council funding is not sufficient to meet the costs of the training.
Well, we're told that without a flourishing engineering and manufacturing sector, we aren't going to survive economically, and yet we see all those empty places in an engineering training centre. You can imagine how unemployed young people who want to take up those places must feel. Well, with me I have 3 people who have experiences of these issues. First, I turn to Gwyneth Flower. You have an engineering background. What advice would you give to unemployed young people who can't take up those training places?
I think in the first instance they ought to go along to their job centre run by the employment services, because it's they who refer young people who are unemployed to us for training. We on our part run a whole spectrum of training courses which are matched to the needs of our local business community. And obviously if you emphasise engineering, then the best chance of getting the right sort of training is in a community where engineering industry predominates.
Brendan Barber, let me ask you, from a trade union point of view, what's your reaction to the situation that seems to face young people, in engineering in particular?
Well, young people should do as Gwyneth advised and take advice and look for what opportunities are available. But the state of the economy is such that many young people, unfortunately, are simply not going to find proper opportunities available to them.
Tony Webb from the CBI, it seems the message just isn't getting across. Why do you think that is?
I must say the film is worrying, isn't it? After all, manufacturing is the heart of the economy, and without it, we're in trouble. But I think the film was a little bit pessimistic, because our members tell us in our industrial trend survey, which we run every quarter, that in fact, taking manufacturing industry as a whole, they're spending more on training and have been spending more on training ever since we started asking this question a couple of years ago. So yes, there are very serious problems in engineering which are worrying, but taking the picture as a whole, I think it's a lot less gloomy than
Do you agree with that?
recession before.
I see you shaking your head.
Well, I haven't had an opportunity to look at the methodology that Tony uses in the CBI survey, but all the anecdotal evidence would suggest that expenditure on training is being cut back, and cut back very severely in this recession. And certainly the reports that I receive from around the country are to that effect.
Do you feel that in the future, in 3 or 4 years, that we will reap the consequences and regret the fact that apprenticeships aren't being funded now?
Oh, I'm absolutely sure of that. I think the reduction in our apprentice training scheme has been a grave mistake, and I think it's something that we have done away with at our peril. There's no doubt at all technical training is run down in this country, and we need to reverse that trend.
We need a change of culture whereby training is regarded as an investment, not a cost. And that's a job that we haven't managed to do yet. But certainly in a recession, you have to look to government to take on a central responsibility, and particularly the needs of unemployed people, which are particularly grave at the moment. That's for government to respond to.
There's been no reference at all in this programme to a very important initiative called Investors in People. And this initiative is one which is designed to ensure that companies follow best practice and are awarded a standard for doing so. The commitment to that award has already been quite huge. I understand over 500 companies now have committed themselves to it. We've actually got approaching 30 who have got through the process and have been given the award. And I think that's the major vehicle which is going to drive forward employers' performance on training. And it's something which the CBI is strongly supporting, and a lot of our members are already committed to it, and we would encourage more to be so.
I agree totally that it's a very good contribution. I don't think it's enough, though. I think we've got to regenerate the whole training programme, both that provided by industry and, more importantly, the government's role in contributing towards it.
I think Investors in People is a good initiative. It's one that we want to see succeed. But it's another attempt that's essentially relying on a voluntary response from employers. And I think we may have to face up to the fact, certainly we're committed to looking for some statutory measures that provide effective rights to training for individuals and put some effective obligations on employers, so that those who currently continue to ignore all the warnings from the CBI, from the TUC, from everyone else, ultimately they have to make a contribution if they're not prepared to do so voluntarily.
My worry about that, of course, is that once you bring in a statutory requirement, you have to police it. And there's always, in the past, the bureaucracy to police the scheme has always exceeded the benefits that you achieve from it.
It takes your eye off the real ball, which is training to meet business needs. What we need is for people to realise that they need to invest in these skills because it's going to be a return for them in the future. And if they don't do it, then eventually they will go under.
Well, I think one point we do need to recognise here, and that is 85% of the British business community are small employers. That's people who employ 25 or less. For them, it's very difficult to afford the sort of training that we're talking about. It's all too easy to think of employers as the very big international, multinational corporations. And I think that's why I place my emphasis on government training to support those small businesses who need just as much improvement in skills as anybody else.
There we have to leave it. Gwyneth Flower, Brendan Barber and Tony Webb, thank you very much.
What do you do if you want to learn a skill but can't get to a training centre or a college? Well, throughout the series we've looked at different kinds of open or distance learning, but we hadn't come across community radio till now. In Bradford, it seems that radio is more than music, headlines and phone-ins.
103.2 FM पे सनराइज रेडियो गाने दे बोलने झूम झूम के नाचो आज क्योंकि वो बहुत खुश ने और नचना चाहते ने लाओ ते फिर हो जाओ शुरू इस गीत दे नाल गान वाले मुकेश जी
झूम झूम के नाचो आज गाओ खुशी के गीत हो गाओ खुशी के गीत आज किसी की हार हुई है आज किसी की जीत होगा.
Sunrise Radio broadcasts to the Asian community. It's a very specialist audience. And we have from our transmitter site a radius of about 25 miles which covers most of West Yorkshire. Within the Asian community in West Yorkshire we have something like a 90% listener awareness. For many members of the Asian community, especially older people, English is not the first language and sometimes they have difficulty coping with practical situations outside in shops, banks, etc. Sometimes in the home as well when younger members of the family who are fluent in English bring home friends. Older people find without the communication skills they find it problematic to contribute to conversations.
To get a job one needs to learn English and not only job but to get on with neighbors and get on to talk, be able to talk to doctors, solicitors and real life situations. When they face real life situations they have to speak in English.
शाम दी क्लासेस जाना सानू इसलिए मुश्किल लगता है क्योंकि आजकल जिस तरह हादसे होंदे आ बाहर काफ़ी डर लगता है तो दूसरा ये कि छोटे बच्चे आ उन्होंने छड़ के किसी को जा नहीं सकते तो नाले गड्डी दी प्रॉब्लम है गड्डी भी नहीं आती इस करके कि बंदा गड्डी विच जा सकता है इस करके शाम दी क्लासेस असीं जा नहीं सकते.
Sunrise Radio decided to broadcast a series of English training programs. This stemmed mainly from demand from our listenership, people calling in to say that the entertainment and information is fine, but how about providing some kind of language training?
It's not like teaching English as a second language like it is in class situation. It is totally different sort of a new unique idea and it's more interesting. It will be dramatized and it will be role plays. So actually to build their confidence, to go out in community, go out in a real life situation and to be able to communicate and get their message across other side confidently. 3.2 FM पे ये सनराइज रेडियो और आज दिन सोमवार. आप जानते हैं ये दिन कौन सा दिन है? जी हाँ, ये है लैंग्वेज ट्रेनिंग का दिन और लैंग्वेज ट्रेनिंग सुनने वाले सभी श्रोताओं को बहनों It's a very easy way of conveying message, passing message through to the community. Everybody listen to radio. It doesn't cost anything to them. It's a very cheap way of acquiring education. So all they have to do is turn the radio on and listen to the lesson. अब रानी डॉक्टर को टेलीफोन करके घर पर बुलाती है.
Good evening, this is Dr. Miles. How can I help you?
This is Mrs. Rani speaking. I am sorry to phone you at home, but I am terribly worried about Anu.
Is that your son, Mrs. Rani?
It's my daughter who is 10 years old.
Has she hurt herself, Mrs. Rani?
No, she hasn't hurt herself, but...
रेडियो लैंग्वेज ट्रेनिंग ਸਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਇਸ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਫਾਇਦੇਮੰਦ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਬਾਹਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਣਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ. ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਜਾਓ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਫਿਕਰ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਆ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਬੈਠੇ ਬਿਠਾਏ ਘਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਸਿੱਖ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਦੂਸਰਾ ਇਹ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵੀ ਰੂਮ 'ਚ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾਓ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਕੰਮ ਕਰੋ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਰੇਡੀਓ ਸੁਣ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਘਰ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਬਸ
Okay, thank you, Dr. Miles. I'm sorry to disturb you.
That's all right, Mrs. Ronnie. Good evening.
Good evening.
I think radio can be a particularly effective media for training and for education in that it can target a mass audience, literally thousands of people. In a classroom you can only get a maximum of 20 to 30 in, but not with radio. Radio is accessible, it can be heard at home, at work, in the car, so you don't have to be in a specific place to be able to tune in, and it's also very, very cost effective.
They've been called aggressive, unemployable and unable to communicate. Now they hold their own among professionals and policymakers and have won a clutch of awards. Based in Nottingham, their innovative training meets a growing national need. Advocacy in Action has brought new expertise to the competitive world of training. The old distinctions between trainer and trainee, expert and learner, able or otherwise, seem helpfully blurred.
Good afternoon, Advocacy in Action. Can I help you?
We're a group of people. It's not a project, I don't think. It's not a building. Advocacy in Action is a way of working together. And it's about working together in equal quality partnerships, to coin a phrase that Kevin uses. So maybe that is our aim, to actually show, to model by the way we relate to one another, which is about equality and respect, and about recognising everyone here as being a person of value and a person with something to give.
You busy?
Very busy today.
In the past, people with disabilities have been devalued, their abilities underestimated, their skills ignored.
Come over in 3 separate bags, please.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
People come to us from local authority day centres and long-stay hospitals, group homes. Some people are living at home with mum and dad. Generally, experiences in the past haven't been good. From the discussion today, we've got 4 workers in the other room who have spent a long time in a hospital. One worker was talking about life in a Derbyshire hospital, where if you were naughty, to use her word, you were stripped of all your clothing and put into an isolation ward. It's quite painful for workers to talk about that sort of thing, to talk about being kept low and silent and small and having decisions made for you. And although things are changing very much at the moment, this is the reality of life in an institution, whether it's a long-stay hospital or a day centre or a hostel. Okay.
Within the group, people help each other to learn the confidence and self-worth denied by these experiences.
Yeah. I want you to say your name and what you're really, really good at.
My name's Michael West. One thing I'm really, really good at is looking after myself in the flat.
My name's Sue McMahon, and I'm really, really, really good at answering telephones and taking messages.
My name's Julie, and I'm really extremely brilliantly good at playing my penny whistle.
My name's Rebecca, and I'm very good at doing art.
My name is Christine. What are you good at, Christine?
Okay.
Making the tea. Well done.
My name's Anthony and I'm really good at swimming.
Brilliant.
My name's Kevin and I'm really, really good at drawing different pictures. That's me, Kevin, who stood there. I had my face cleaned and I had to be marching up and down, and at the same time I was crying, and the patients known I was crying, so I tried to open that door and I wasn't allowed, there is an arrow pointing that way. The reason why it's been pointing that way, because the members of staff and the doctors and the senior supervisor who was there, social workers, directors, and all that was talking about me. And I didn't like it when I had to go there. And to me, that is your file. It belongs to the readers, and it's kept into filing cabinets. And we are not allowed to see the filing cabinet because it's locked up. And they use difficult words, they do. They're talking about you. And I don't think that is right. We should be involved from the start.
Right. People with disabilities now have a legal right to be included in decisions which affect them. Often, for the first time, their expertise is being acknowledged.
The main features of all our training and education are the involvement of people with disabilities, full involvement in the planning and the delivery and the evaluation of all the training. Training is participatory, and it's not about people from here, trainers coming along with a box of knowledge and landing it on people. It's about creating learning situations where people can grow together and learn from one another.
That's one. Come on. Two. Where's the other one? Come on. Come on. To talk to top people. How to talk to top people. And that's why there's a picture of, that's why we do pictures like that.
Which one's the top person, Kevin?
The top person is behind a desk, and as just say, people like in wheelchairs and a black person are there because they want to try and talk to top people.
As people here find their voice, they train others to listen.
I've done training about social issues and problems that different people have before, but that training's only been carried out by experts and hasn't included the people who experience the problems that you're being trained about. I feel like I've learned a tremendous amount. I feel that in less than a day I threw off years of fear, that it's not something that's frightening anymore, that it's not something that I have to run away from.
People who've got a disability, I think they should be able to go out and speak what they believe in, because they've got their own rights, their own choice, they've got the freedom of the line, you've got respect. We want to ask people to listen, if they can listen to people with disability, to listen to what they have to say, not try and make all the decisions for them. It would be on equal balance or an equal partnership, and I think that is the main thing we try to get the message across.
And that is it for this series. Remember our helpline number, it's 0800 100 900, and that line is still open. And you can, of course, still get the Skillshop booklet. Send a 9x7 self-addressed envelope, please, with a 34p stamp to Skillshop, PO Box 193, Nottingham NG3 2HA.
Next Sunday, the whole of the training hour is devoted to the Second Chance Challenge. It'll look at how well Britain's FE colleges are meeting the needs of the second chance learner.
Meanwhile, from everybody at Skillshop, goodbye.
BBC One presents a very special event to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Queen's accession to the throne a unique portrait of a year in the life of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. A remarkable portrait, Elizabeth R. Thursday the 6th of February at 8 o'clock on BBC One.
Well, a look now at tomorrow night here on BBC One. At 7 o'clock, Annika Rice unveils the top prize in the holiday competition. Then at 7:30 in EastEnders, Kathy and Rachel set off to meet Wilmot Brown. At 8, Reggie's latest venture has become a huge success in The Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin. And following that at 8:30, Bill Beaumont and Ian Botham take on A Question of Sport. The 9 o'clock news is followed by Spender, who during 2 weeks enforced leave finds himself taking on a job he could do without. Then at 10:25, an Inside Story special with a powerful new testimony which marks this week's 20th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, the day when British Army paratroopers shot dead 13 Catholic civil rights marchers and wounded 13 more in Londonderry. Remember Bloody Sunday, in which reporter Peter Taylor presents exclusive interviews with the soldiers involved. And with Barry Norman's film 92 at 11:15, that's Tuesday night on BBC One. A look now at the weather forecast. Fog will be widespread, dense and freezing tonight, giving hazardous driving conditions on many roads. Tomorrow, after a cold and frosty start, many places will have some sunshine, but patches of freezing fog, which will be dense at first, may linger into the afternoon. Parts of southern England will be cloudy at times, and more generally cloudy and somewhat milder weather over the northern and western Isles will slowly extend south to other parts of north and west Scotland. Shetland, however, will become brighter for a time. Temperatures will be similar to today's, which means it will be cold again where the fog lingers.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A short demonstration of lifting heavy objects without strain. Feet about a foot apart, knees bent, straight back and down like so. And now, the wrong way. Straight legs and bent back can cause injury, don't cause injury, don't cause injury, don't cause injury, don't cause injury, don't.
That was a public information film. Well, that's almost time now for us to say goodnight. BBC Radio will be broadcasting through the night. Bob Harris is on Radio 1 now, and on Radio 2, Digby Fairweather brings us the Jazz Parade. Here on BBC One, we'll be back on the air at 2 o'clock for The Way Ahead, the second of 13 programmes explaining the new benefits for disabled people. But for now, that's it. Thank you for joining us, and I do hope you'll be able to be with us again tomorrow. In the meantime, on behalf of all of us here on BBC One, this is Helena Kozak wishing you a very good night.